I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Good morning. Good morning. How we doing? It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Richie, riding solo on this Friday, day 2 of the NFL Draft. On today's show, I'm going to be hitting on the big moves that my New York Giants made in day 1 of the NFL Draft, and I'm also going to hit you guys with some takeaways from last night's Game 3s in the NBA playoffs. We're going to start this off with the NFL Draft. How about my New York Giants? To no one's surprise, Cam Ward went number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Cleveland Browns made a move, trading back with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who made it very obvious that they were really strong and really hot for wide receiver cornerback Travis Hunter, which put the New York Giants in a position to get the player that, leading into the waning hours before the draft, they kind of led on everyone to believe they wanted, which was edge rusher extraordinaire Abdul Carter from Penn State. And if you're a New York Giants fan, you have every reason to be happy right now for one simple reason. Our last 2 Super Bowl runs, a huge part of it was having 3 bona fide edge rushers. Whether it was Super Bowl 42 when we had O.C. Strahan and Tuck, or whether it was Super Bowl 46 where we had O.C. Tuck and Jason Pierre-Paul, it has always been a staple of Giants championship football having that 3rd edge rusher. I personally believe that Abdul Carter is versatile to the level where defensive coordinator Shane Bowen can keep him on the field basically for every play. He'll be on the line, and he'll also be in the second layer of the defenders, keeping Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns on the field together on crucial 3rd down situations. And the New York Giants did pick up next year's option for Kayvon Thibodeau, so for the foreseeable future, it appears that probably for the next 2 years, the New York Giants are going to have all 3 of these pass rushers together. And along with all-pro defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, it definitely puts the Giants among potentially the elite when it comes to defensive lines. I would have to say that probably the shock of last night's draft was the most talked about player, quarterback Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado, not being drafted yesterday. A lot of people felt that the New Orleans Saints may have taken a stab at him. When he got past New Orleans, I think most folks thought maybe Seattle or the Pittsburgh Steelers. When the Steelers did pass on him, a few picks later, the New York Giants traded back into round 1, where I think the expectation and a lot of people were expecting that they ultimately would take Shedeur. But the New York Giants decided to go a different route and drafted Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss. And it's kind of been met by analysts and fans alike with a 50-50 split on how good of a pick it was. Whether it was Shedeur or Jackson Dart, one commonality is I think whoever the Giants would have drafted would have more than likely sat behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston this entire year to learn. I think with Jackson Dart, also the reason why the New York Giants were so inclined to trade back into round one was to ensure that they get that fifth year option by getting back into round one, being that he's not going to play this year, or he shouldn't play this year, assuming that the two veterans in front of him don't both get injured. I'm going to tell you what I do believe. Jackson Dart has to get better with reading his progressions. I think he has a better arm than Shador. And I also think that he played better competition than Shador. I do laugh to a level at some of the negativity that this pick has brought because Jackson Dart played against the best competition in the country playing in the SEC. So in that regard, I do believe that it's a little comical that so many people are dogging on this pick. Um, you get the best player possibly in the draft with Abdul Carter. That's a no-brainer. That was an easy one. But ultimately, I think whenever you are quote unquote known as a quarterback whisperer, as is Brian Dable, I think it's imperative that you get the guy you want. Obviously, that wasn't Daniel Jones. He was drafted by the previous regime. And the Giants were in a precarious position where they gave him a contract based on 1 year of success, ultimately because they also didn't pick up that fifth year option when Shane and Dable came into town. But all in all, I'm actually 2 for 2 on my last mock draft as I had Carter and Dart both going to the Giants. I didn't have them trading up for Dart. I had Dart being there at 34, which he may have very well been. But I think the aggressive nature of jumping to round one was to ensure that you get that fifth year option because that's very important, especially when you're going to sacrifice 1 year in the film room and on the bench. But I will say this, the New York Giants yesterday are a lot better than they were the day before. These are two quality picks. And on my radar for day two, the Giants will be picking at 65, which is the first pick of round three. I am hoping that the Giants draft Tate Ratledge out of Georgia, who is a quality guard and a guy that I really think could pay dividends for the New York Giants immediately. And when you look at the offensive line, that is definitely a point of emphasis that the Giants want to improve. I'd also like to see the Giants, with their remaining picks, address the cornerback position to get Paulson Adebo some help because I don't believe that Deonte Banks is the answer to be a starter. I think they did really good in free agency getting safety Javon Holland. They got some depth picks in the event of injuries for their offensive line as well as on the defensive line. But I believe that the move for sure for the New York Giants has to be guard today. Best guard on the board, pick 65, I think is very logical. And I also think the Giants could potentially be in the market to pick up a running back to give Tyrone Tracy some help. I will say this. I've seen all kinds of chatter about Shador Sanders, about some people linked in the media or even in the NFL or fan bases, fans of teams, saying that this was a way to humble the Sanders family. I'm not buying into all that completely. I feel that Shador in most years would have been a second round talent, but in a weaker quarterback class was pushed up to the top. I also think that the name helps a little. I don't have anything against that young man, but with a 13-12 record at Colorado, I do believe that he was a little blown out of proportion in terms of how good he is right now. And by no means am I saying that he's not going to be a hell of a quarterback in his career, but similar to the guy that the Giants ultimately chose, it's going to take time. I believe that Shador will be drafted today within the first 5 to 10 picks of round two. And I wish him well. I'm not going to lie. When the Giants did trade up, I thought the pick was going to be Shador. And some reports leaked out were saying that the Los Angeles Rams actually wanted Jackson Dart, and that was also part of the motivation why the Giants jumped out in front to make sure that they didn't miss that opportunity to draft him. And, as fans, whether we like it or not, the bottom line is that The coach has to get the guy that he wants. But Brian Dable will live or die on this sword. So we're going to find out if this ultimately was the right pick. But I would have to say a strong day one for the Giants, because even if pick two doesn't pan out to be as great as you hope, there's no denying that pick one was just a phenomenal. You're getting a phenomenal player in Abdul Carter. And I think it's a cool little story how he's basically grew up an Eagles fan. He said he's leaving them quite behind, and that he also idolizes former Giant great, the greatest Giant of all time, Lawrence Taylor, and said that he aspires to be the player that Taylor was. And I think that's going to really make him rather popular among the fan base right off the jump. Going to move it along to the NBA playoffs. How about my guy, Jalen Brunson? 10 consecutive points, I believe 11 consecutive points to wrap the game up. A couple of moments of confusion towards the end as he was told by the bench, Coach Thibodeau and his father, Rick Brunson alike, to miss the free throw that would have put the Knicks up by 3 with the intention of running out the clock. But the buzzer went off, and you cannot end the game on a false buzzer, and nobody from the Detroit Pistons touched the ball. So it led to the Pistons taking out an inbound pass, which was just really a poor pass that went out of bounds, and then ultimately the Knicks put it down and won the ball game. But definitely moments of tension, because it only takes 0.3 of a second to actually get up a shot. And I did have like the little ominous feeling. And I'll be honest, I don't believe in that missed the shot. Just make it a 3-point game, because worst case scenario, they can tie you as opposed to beat you. But I understand the theory behind it. The important thing is that Karl Anthony Towns reassessed himself in this series with a huge game, as did Jalen Brunson. The Knicks took better care of the basketball last night. The Knicks played much more physical and matched the Detroit energy. They were able at different junctures of that game to quiet the crowd, but you have to give the Pistons credit. They kept fighting. This is still going to be a dogfight, but the Knicks do have the home court advantage back on their side, as they'll be in a position to go up 3-1 before they get back to MSG for a potential closeout game 5, one game at a time. But you got to like the Knicks' toughness, and I must admit, this is the first time during these playoffs that the Knicks played a complete four quarters, I should say, and it couldn't have come at a better time. John Morant, superstar of the Memphis Grizzlies, injured last night. They had a substantial lead, and the Oklahoma City Thunder made history by overcoming the biggest halftime deficit in postseason history to win. Just a devastating loss for the Memphis Grizzlies. That series is all but over. I was shocked. I didn't think OKC was going to win last night. I actually turned the game off. And the Los Angeles Clippers really outpacing the Denver Nuggets. And I think the Nuggets are running out of time and running out of answers. If the Nuggets cannot find a way to win game 4, this could be over rather early. Game 1 was a true playoff classic. Game 2 was a pretty good game. But yesterday, the Clippers just looked like they were better conditioned and just ready on a level that they would not be denied yesterday. And the Nuggets definitely are in some trouble right now. So their veterans, Murray and Jokic, really going to have to step it up to carry that team back and square it up before it goes back to Denver, as opposed to it being a potential survival game for the Nuggets. Knicks fans are all hoping that the Orlando Magic could potentially get a Game 3 win here to at least burden Boston a little with a couple of extra games they have to play. Most recently, the Celtics did a hell of a job without Jason Tatum, as Jaylen Brown really, really stepped up, as did Kristaps Porzingis, the former New York Knick. But in the early going, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Boston Celtics in these playoffs are looking like the two powerhouses. Giants fans, get at me. Let me know what you think. Let me know if the Giants got this right yesterday. I personally think that they didn't give up a lot to get what they want. It could have been a lot more of a haul. I think the fact that the Steelers had let both those quarterbacks pass by, as did the Seattle Seahawks, made it a little more reasonable in terms of what the Giants were going to trade. I really like what the Philadelphia Eagles did. Of course, I don't mean that, but, just from an analytical standpoint and from a covering the sports in a fair way standpoint, Eagles got themselves a heck of a defender. I think the Dallas Cowboys did a good job getting Tyler Booker. Definitely needed help on the interior offensive line over there as well. But Giant fans, get at me. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to be covering more of this draft tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. And Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, welcome to the greatest city in the world. And I am very pleased to call you guys New York Giants. Until next time, I am Richie. Have a great, safe, and prosperous Friday.